All right.
Okay, this is Phil Simborg with another video podcast, and I started doing this recently because I thought it would be a lot more fun than just doing regular interviews. You may see on the screen with me right now a good friend of mine and a great new rising star in the backgammon world, Jack Edelson. Say hello, Jack.
Hi.
Jack did an amazing thing last weekend in Wisconsin. He won both the Open Division and the Masters Division, and in the Masters he beat the hottest player in the world right now, Ed O'Loughlin. And he's also done something else that was very exciting to me. He's won 3 tournaments in the ABT this year. I don't know if anybody else has ever done that. I think possibly the only people I can think of that might have done it are maybe Neil or Ray Fogelin or possibly Malcolm. But to win 3 tournaments, he won Wisconsin, he won Minnesota. In Washington, D.C., he beat Victor Ashkenazi, who is setting records in PR around the world and proving, I think he just became a Grandmaster 2 or Grandmaster 1. And so Jack has really hit the scene hard this year. And I thought it would be fun to do a little interview with him and look at a couple of the positions that he sent me that were interesting from some of his matches. So we're going to break it up a little bit, but I think first, it would be interesting to know your background, Jack. Where you're from, what do you do, family history, how you got into backgammon. Give us a little background, please.
Thanks, Phil. So, really appreciate the introduction. So, I'm Jack, as you said. I'm in Madison, Wisconsin these days. Graduate student in political science, 5th year of the PhD program, hoping to finish up in a couple of years. Backgammon, how did I get into that?
Well, before we get into that, you're not from Madison. Where are you from?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I thought I had answered everything. I guess I did. I'm from Long Island, New York. I'm actually out here right now visiting my folks are still out here. Lived on Long Island until all the way through college, and then when I went to grad school, moved out to Wisconsin. Still talk like I'm from New York, but
okay. So you're studying political science. What is your goal in life other than backgammon for a living?
Most likely an academic career, but I'm open to other things.
Most backgammon players are into math and other kinds of subjects. Political science doesn't seem to be the typical thing that backgammon players study. It's interesting. Are you really good at math?
Well, if you look at the typical course curriculum in political science graduate programs these days, you're taking about a third of your classes wind up being in statistics and game theory. So we make very heavy use of mathematical quantitative tools. Using a lot of survey data or other sorts of data in our work. So very much like economics or some other social sciences.
Oh, interesting! I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that. So how did you get into backgammon?
So I was a chess player, like so many other backgammon players. And, I had known the rules of backgammon as a kid. And I, played a couple of games, with my folks or, with, some, computer program that had a bunch of games on it, including backgammon. I recently realized how terrible the backgammon on that was. But I was a chess player, and my chess teacher had written a book about the chess world title contenders, the young chess world title contenders around 1980. And one of the chapters was on the late Walter Brown, great American chess player. And the introduction mentioned that, for a time, because of sort of the lack of support for American chess, he was making more money playing games like poker and backgammon and some others. And I looked at this and I'm like, I didn't realize people play backgammon seriously. I had no idea that this was a game that people took seriously. And I got curious and I wound up downloading GNU. Very fortunate I downloaded, a good program, just looking sort of blindly for it. And this was the summer before when I was about to move to Madison. So probably about 3-4 months before I moved to Wisconsin.
Which was how long ago?
In 2011.
2011. So you're really new to this game to be winning all these tournaments. It took me Took me about 30 years.
Just because anything can happen with the right dice, which is was part of the appeal starting out, because I moved out to Madison. I started playing in the chess club. I didn't really like the chess club there. I always joke with MCG about being the second best backgammon player among Madison Chess Club refugees, but I think David Rockwell played at the Madison Chess Club too, which would make me the third best backgammon player among ex chess players at the University Chess Club.
Uh-huh. So you actually played with Matt Cohn-Geyer when he was there?
No, Matt preceded me by about. He left probably a few years before I got to Madison.
Are you as good a chess player as him, or better, or how do you compare? You're better. Okay.
In terms of ratings, I'm slightly better than MCG.
I thought he was the Illinois State champion in high school, and then a top college player. No.
He's a good, rating wise, a very good, solid club player. But I'm sure if he put his mind to it, he'd be a lot better. He's very talented at such things.
Okay.
But what happened was, I didn't really like the chess club there. And I knew there was a backgammon club, but it also met on Tuesdays, the same day as the chess club. And finally, one day in December, so after I'd been in Madison for about 4 months, I got fed up with the chess club, came to the backgammon club, and proceeded to win the first tournament. I was, maybe a middling intermediate by that time. But again, right, the great thing about backgammon is if you know a little something, even if you're not that good, when you're starting out, you're not necessarily going to get crushed every week, right? And winning that first tournament, I know a couple of other players at our club who, came to their first tournament in casts. I don't know if that got me hooked, but, everybody was very friendly and very kind and very welcoming. And, yeah, so that's how I got into it.
Have you pretty much given up chess for backgammon?
I'll play when I get a chance.
But you would say is it fair to say you're now addicted to backgammon?
Yeah. I certainly wouldn't go to a weekend tournament in chess or would I go to, I'll often stop by a chess club when I'm back here on Long Island, or like the other day, some old chess friends, we were playing some blitz chess, some people that are local around here. So yeah, I'll play online a little, but not much.
So in the last couple of years, you decided to start traveling and going to more tournaments.
Yes.
And this year, now that you have a shot, I think you're ranked number 2 on the ABT.
Right.
You've got a real shot at winning, which would be a very exciting thing. Are you planning to go to a lot more tournaments in the U.S. this year?
Yeah, I'm planning on playing all but 2 remaining tournaments. I can't make either Charlotte or Denver, but other than that, I'll be everywhere. And there are lots of top players that have a lot of points. Points in it. Places like Vegas, you could pick up 30 points in one weekend. Certainly. Sure. But I might as well give it a shot. And if I don't get it, I don't get it.
Good. Well, I'll be seeing you at some of those tournaments. I'll be at Charlotte doing a lecture and playing there, and I'll make a few others. But I'll certainly look forward to seeing you at these tournaments. And I do want to point out that one of the reasons that I chose to interview you, there are plenty of people that are hot. Your sportsmanship is always impeccable. You're always a good sport. You're always friendly. I've never seen you cry or scream when you lose, and I admire your attitude over the board. You seem to stay calm, and I think that's part of the reason why you win as much as you do. It's not just a matter of skill. You have a very, very strong attitude. You want to catch the phone?
Yeah, that's a phone. My folks have got it.
By the way, this is something I always ask, particularly people who are in college. What do your parents think about all this? There's a lot of money to go to grad school and your career. What do they think about your doing all this backgammon? I guess now that you're winning some money at it, maybe they don't object too much. But what do they think of this?
I think they've always been supportive, and they know that I'm not going to do something that would put my future at risk. Like I wouldn't put $40 million on a game if I didn't have that to lose, which I don't.
Do you enjoy playing money games as well as tournament?
Yeah, I do. I play money games. Very happy to do that. I enjoy that. I mean, when I'm making a serious run in the tournament, right, I'm not going to stay up all night playing duets.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
But
I've been in Schuetz with you, and you're fun to play with. And I know you've got a great group there in Madison, and Keen Marin runs does he run the club as well as the tournament there?
Bill Minster does the club, and Bill and Keen alternate each year doing the tournament. They both do a great job, whoever it is. It's great.
Yeah, really nice people. I was sorry to miss the Madison tournament. I had to babysit my granddaughter. Otherwise, I would never miss that tournament because it's so well run.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's one of the best. I think Charlotte is great too. It's a Swiss movement and
yeah,
well run.
I love Swiss tournaments.
Yeah, sorry you're going to miss that. Okay, we'll come back to you, your personal life in just a minute. Let's take a look at some problems. I think that'll be interesting to people. You sent me this problem right here that's going to be up on the screen, and I put it up without the answer. We can look at the answer later. The score, it's an 11-point match, and red is losing 8 away, 4 away. I always use the away score. For those who don't use it that way, the score is 7-3. But all that matters in a match is how many points you need. And because this is going to be on YouTube, there may be people who are beginners and not that familiar with backgammon, so I'll explain a little bit more of what's going on. The first one to reach 11 points wins the match. Which match was this, Jack?
This was the first round of the Masters.
First round of the Masters. And were you red or blue?
I was red.
You were red, and it's red's roll, and red has a decision to make. And you have this decision to make before every roll. He's already holding a 2 cube. The question is, should he double to 4, or should he not double? And if he does double, should blue take or pass? Now, you can pause this video and give it some thought and decide for yourself if you want to work this as a test. I'm not going to wait very long. We're going to go right ahead and get into the answer. I'd like to know what you were thinking over the board, and then I'll show the rolled out answer after you tell me what your thoughts are about this position. Go ahead, Jack.
Oh, so you want me to give you my thoughts now?
Yeah, give me your thoughts over the board, what you did, what happened, and then we'll look at the right answer.
So I was red here, and I was thinking, I didn't actually give this a ton of thought. The way I was thinking about this is a position where I'm 8 away. So if I redouble to 4 and I win a gammon, I win the match, right? Because you win the four times the double win for the gammon. So that's a very efficient way of getting 8 points and winning the match just in one game. So I also knew that I had significant chances to lose this game. I have that one checker caught all the way back behind his prime, and I knew I could lose this game, right? If that checker were out, I would think I was too good to double, right? I would not have any real chances to lose the game, but I'd be very easily winning a gammon. He would pass. Here I wasn't. When I think about it now, if I were blue, I would surely pass, just because the gammon chances are too important at this score when the opponent's 8 away. But I didn't really, I was worried about that checker that was back, and I figured any time you're 8 away and you have a chance to send the 4 cube when you have a lot of gammon chances, you're going to reship. So that was really all I was really thinking.
So did you reship?
Yes, I did.
You doubled, and did your opponent take or pass?
Yes, he took.
He took. Okay, now we'll take a look at the answer. And now I understand why you didn't name the opponent, because we don't want to embarrass anybody. It was
his name is right up there, but
oh, I'm sorry, Sean. Poor Sean. He's a great player from
Indianapolis. This was uncharacteristic of him to make this. I mean, I might have made the same error too.
Yeah, I must tell you, I wasn't sure this is a double, because getting that last checker out is scary. You have these 2 blots in here. This is one of those positions where I'm not sure if I'm not good enough or too good. But I agree with you. When you're losing 8-4, it's a good time to gamble and shoot the cube. And one of the major reasons I would have passed this isn't because I would be so smart. I'd be very much afraid when I'm winning by this much to have a 4-cube in a situation where I could get gammoned a lot. Now, Extreme Gammon tells us that the odds of blue getting gammon is about 41% of the time. That's a lot of gammons.
I think the winning chances thing is cut off on the screen.
Oh, it is cut off? I'm sorry about that. I'll try, and maybe if I move it over, I don't know if that works. But
now it's working.
Okay, so the gammons are 41%. Now, blue does win a reasonable amount of time, 35%. 35% is a lot to win, but it's the gammons which are very, very costly. As Jack says, he wins 8 points after you take the cube. He wins the match. So this is a big, big pass. And one of the things that we teach at the Learning Center, the Backgammon Learning Center, is that you always start with Woolsey's Law. We always start asking, will our opponent take or drop? Do you use that strategy yourself, Jack?
Often, although sometimes I'm just not sure what the hell's going on, and or especially at certain match scores, right? That can be tougher to use. But it's a good rule. It's a great rule, right? If it's maybe a take and maybe a pass, it's probably a double.
Yeah, it's a very good rule, and if you know it's a pass, then for sure it's a double unless you're too good. So if you come to the conclusion, yeah, and if you had come to the conclusion that your opponent's going to pass this, you were making a wrong decision with Sean, because Sean is famous for being a gambler and having guts, and he certainly is one of the most fun people I've ever played with in Schwitz for that reason. But in match play, he's a gambler also, and he's a very, very fine player. We don't want to take anything away from Sean, and I want to point out that this horrible, terrible mistake that he made is not uncommon for many of us to make in these complicated positions. So nothing against him. But this is a very fascinating position. I'm glad you showed it to us. But again, I want to stress, if you're playing this game, you should almost always start out with Woolsey's Law, and that will help you come to the right conclusion. And then you can use Simborg's Law. If you're not sure whether it's too good or not good enough, you go ahead and double.
There's something to be said for that, because very often, firstly, your opponent might take. And I showed this to some other pretty good, at least one other pretty good player who thinks he would have taken. And often if you're too good, right, it means that most of the remaining tough checker players on your end, because your opponent should be sitting around there closed out half the time. And you'll have some bear-in decisions and bear-off decisions. And your opponent might take, I remember a match with a real world-class player, top 10 giant. And he was sort of giving me a hard time about how he's a great guy, so I'm not going to name names here, but he was sort of giving me a hard time about how I was taking lots and lots of bad cubes and whatnot. And I've been known to do that sort of thing. So anyway, there was this one position for the match that I had doubled and he had taken, and we had taken a picture. And we both taken a picture, so we both ran it. And I run it on the computer, and I was too good, and it was a 0.6 pass. So I didn't say anything to him. I was thinking, okay, he'll see that he was giving me a hard time about taking too deep, and then took this super whopper, but
it's that old saying about people living in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and we all live in a glass house when you play backgammon.
Yeah, but it also shows, these positions where you're a little bit too good, you do sometimes get takes. I wouldn't necessarily double every time I thought I was too good, but if it's close.
Well, let me say this has been rolled out, which means it's pretty accurate. But it's only too good by about 0.054, which is really fairly small. And I have a saying also that I teach, if you're not quite sure if you're too good or not, go ahead and double, because there's nothing wrong with taking the points, and you might get lucky and the other guy might take, which is what happened here. So I think that's a real good rule of thumb. I'd rather err on the side of doubling when you're too good than going the other way. And this is a real good example of why that works. All right, let's go on to another position. Then I have a couple more questions for you that I want to get. Sure. Let's go to number 2. I'll set the stage on number 2. Again, this is a match to 11, and red is leading 3-2. So red is 8 away, and the opponent, who is Victor Ashkenazi, who is, I think, ranked number 3 in PR in the world behind Mochi and Michi, and another good friend of mine, and a great player. But Jack obviously has doubled. It's showed that he has doubled as
No,
red.
Victor is doubling as
Oh,
blue.
Victor has doubled you. I see. It's kind of hard to tell with extreme gammon when you get to when it shows this way. So Victor has doubled. It's an initial double to Jack, and
It's a
Jack.
redouble.
So, oh, I see. It's a redouble because it says 2 or 4. I'm not used to doing it this way. I use a different format. Okay, so Victor was holding the 2 cube, and we've already taken care of that question. He has redoubled Jack, and Jack can either take the cube on 4, and whoever wins the game wins 4 points unless there's a gammon, or Jack can just drop and give away 2 points. The doubling cube was added in around the 1930s and has really made this into a much more complex, interesting game, both for money and for match. So this is different from, for example, tavla, which is played in the Middle East and other parts of the world where you don't play with the doubling cube. And those areas are starting to come around. You're seeing a lot of people in Turkey, Greece, and other countries where they used to play tavla. They've learned now how much more interesting the game is with the cube. So Jack has a tough decision here. Should he take or should he pass? Again, you can pause the video and decide for yourself. Jack, why don't you tell me what happened?
All right, so I wound up taking this. Blue only has not all 2s cover for blue, right? Double 2s covers his blotter makes the 6 prime. 2-5 does, 2-6 does, but he can't cover with 2-4, 2-3, 1-1 because then he has to. He can cover it and then has to.
And 2-1 and 2-1 also breaks. Yeah.
Yeah. So you only got the 5 covered numbers. Of course, it's a great double. I mean, even if he fails to cover, I still have to hit him, and I still have to win from there. Victor's double is certainly right. I have a big race lead, so if I escape that checker, I'm doing great. If I just my experience tells me that, in situations where you have a big race lead, you can take some pretty lousy positions when you've got sort of one checker trying to get out. And I felt that given his lack of cover numbers, and the fact that, even if he does manage to make the prime, yes, I might get gammons, but I have, decent chances to avoid it. Excellent.
So what happened? Did you win or lose?
I wanted to win this game, yeah.
Did he cover? What did he roll after this?
I can pull it up.
No, let's not bother, but you ended up winning the game.
Yeah, I did. What happened was I eventually I escaped that checker, and I wound up, with that sort of same Baron structure. I redoubled to 8. He passed. It was actually a small take according to XG when I still had the open 5-point trying to bear in against that 3-point anchor.
Let me ask you a question. Well, first of all, the answer says you're supposed to pass here, but only by 0.021. So that's as good as flipping a coin as far as whether you take or pass. Did it enter your mind that maybe since you're playing one of the best players in the world, that even if it was a pass, maybe you should gamble a little? Do you play that way at all?
A little bit. I don't think it entered my mind here because I just thought it was genuinely a take. And yeah, if there's something I knew, I was certain was marginal, I might err on the side of taking it. Victor is, a fabulous player. I mean, I've played him 3 times now and somehow managed to win all 3, but I have no illusions about who the stronger player is, and that's Victor by a margin. But there is some truth in that. During this sort of winning streak I've been on, I've had 4 8-point games. I had one against Victor in DC. I had one against Ed in the finals here. I had one against Ed in Michigan, and there was one more in there, and I won 3 out of those 4 games, and the only time I lost was the time I didn't win anything. So, just being on the right side of 8-point games, I mean, makes such a huge difference. But
well, even when Mochi, who's the best player in the world, even when Mochi wins, he'll tell you that he had good dice. No matter how good you are or how bad you are, you don't win tournaments without some good dice. The dice is a big part of the backgammon game. The more skill you have, the less the luck will hurt you. But in the long run, but in the short run, you got to have some good dice to win a tournament, no matter how good you are. So don't apologize for getting lucky.
Not apologizing. I'm saying that, you know, sometimes increasing volatility against those great players can be a good strategy, even if it wasn't what I was deliberately doing.
Good point. And this clearly is a highly volatile position. This is the kind of position, by volatile, what Jack means is this game can turn very quickly, very, very much in favor of red or very, very much in favor of blue in a roll or two. So that's what we call a highly volatile position. And it certainly is, and all the books will tell you that on highly volatile positions, you should be more likely to double and possibly more likely to take if the odds are there. So Jack did a good job on this one, even though technically it was a pass. And as you mentioned, you gave a cube, you gave an 8 cube back to Victor, which he passed. And I wouldn't be shocked to hear Victor say that he might have thought it might be a take and he didn't want an 8 cube against Jack Edelson. Nothing personal, but Victor must feel he doesn't want to gamble that much. I know Mochi has come right out and said when he's playing a player that is worse than him, and by the way, everybody's worse than him, he might be a little bit more conservative on those cubes. He does change his game some. So it's possible that Victor passed an 8 cube that he might have taken if he was playing Mochi. And
I agree. I think that was the case. And, you know, I've talked to Victor enough. Victor's a good friend. And, you know, I'm sure he was thinking that. And, you know, here I'm just thinking, what if he rolls something awful, like a 4-3, right? He's got to break a point. You know, probably going to make the 3-point, you know, or whatever, or, you know, rolls a, you know, there are worse numbers than that. You know, I have a chance to escape and become the favorite immediately, you know.
Great, right. And that's another reason to take the cube, because you've got more cube vig or more power holding the cube, because when you recube, it does put more pressure on a top player like Victor. Let's break this up a little bit with another couple of questions that I had on my list for you. What is it that you love or don't love about tournaments? And if you could change anything, is there anything you would rather see changed? And what are your favorite tournaments? And give us a little discussion about that, please.
Well, I think the thing I love, and again, I think I mentioned this to you in the email, right? A lot of my thinking on this is motivated by having been in the chess world for, you know, 10 years or so, and seeing some of the differences. I mean, it's the scheduling is off, you know, is so much more civilized. I mean, there's no dinner break in a chess tournament. There's no, you know, time to do things like that. You have to hope that your game ends early, or else you've got another one a half hour later. You know, we've got a dinner break. There's snacks out there. People, you know, there's time to relax and do things, and you know, just generally the atmosphere at a backgammon tournament. You know, people are so friendly. People are so, you know, it's so enjoyable. I mean, obviously not everybody, but the vast majority of players I've met, I really genuinely like. And
let me add one thing. My background is bridge. I was a life master and played bridge all over the world, and there's no comparison how much nicer and friendlier the backgammon crowd is than the bridge crowd. And that was one of the things that drew me to backgammon as well. If you're a new player and you come to a backgammon tournament, people will go out of their way to make you feel welcome. And we do a lot of things to encourage new players to come. So if you haven't been to a backgammon tournament or a local club, come and you'll meet people like Jack who are going to welcome you with open arms and offer to help you. And a lot of people will make sure you understand the rules and help you set up the board. Don't be afraid to come. We really are a very friendly, great group of people. Go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, I really agree. I mean, when I won my first tournament in DC, right, that was my first win on the ABT. And I was getting emails and messages and whatnot from Phil and from many other people. And, you know, it's a small community compared to, say, the chess community or many others. But, you know, that means people know each other and people think of each other when they achieve something nice, you know, they reach out. And I really, that meant more to me than the win itself, was just all of this thoughtfulness. And, you know, just that kind of, I think I made many great friends, from the best players in the world to weak intermediates. And it is nice that with a lot of these side events in backgammon tournaments, right? In chess, right, you wind up not having any idea who anybody is if they're rated 300 points below you. And I do worry that can happen in backgammon too. You know, I don't want my friendship circle to only be, those who I'm playing in the open division. I mean, there are, but having those side events, having things like, just all the various stuff that goes on in the back end tour, and having your local club and visiting others.
What Jack is referring to. What Jack is referring to is when you enter a backgammon tournament, you enter for the division based on your skill level. But if you're a top player like Jack and you play in the open division, there are many events like two-pointers and quickies and doubles and other areas where you can interact with players of different levels so that and this is great for the lower level players as well because they get a chance to play either as a partner with or against for very, very little money or for a $10 entry fee or something fun. You can play against really top players as well. And most of the time after the match, the top player will tell you maybe give you some pointers and what you might have done differently and help you out. And it's a fun, joking atmosphere. It's a much more serious game, of course, when you're playing for the big money in the finals and the championship. But generally, it's a real good social event. Is there anything about tournaments that you don't like or that you'd like to change or that you any of the rules or format or anything else that you'd care to mention?
I don't have terribly strong opinions. I've gone back and forth on a couple of things, like the legal moves question, whether, so for those not familiar, right, whether if you make an illegal move, your opponent has to then point it out and correct your move, or if they can let the play stand if they think it's in their favor. I've used to be very much for that, and I moved against that over time. Tournament format, I could care less if it's single elimination or double elimination. I do like the Swiss format. Maybe this is the chess player in me coming out. I like knowing exactly what time my next round's going to start. Like, at some of these tournaments, I like having the extra play. I like that a lot. But that obviously takes more time, and not every tournament has the long weekend to do that sort of thing.
Okay, great. Let's move on to number 3. We only have 4, but number 3 I think is very interesting. This is a checker play question. The score, red is winning 3-0 in a match 2-11. And this again was your match with Ed O'Loughlin, so it must have been in the Masters finals, right? And Jack, you're red and you have a 5-1 to play. And of course, red is on the bar. So he has to come in first before he can play, and he has a choice. He can come in with a 5 and then find a 1 to play, or he can come in with a 1 and find a 5 to play. So again, if you want to pause the video and give some thought to what you would do, this is a very instructive, fairly early game position and is fairly thematic. So it's a very good one as a teaching tool to know what to do here. Jack, take it away. Tell us what you did and what you think.
Well, speaking of this being a teaching tool, I would like you to teach me because I still don't completely understand the right play.
Well, let me show the right play by bringing the rollout up.
I didn't really think about this play. I just sort of automatically said, I'm not entering on the 5. I'm not stepping into those builders. So I entered on the ace point and brought the 5 down. It seemed to me the only play, and I didn't give it a second thought until I ran it with XG and saw that I'm supposed to enter on his 5 point and slot my 5 point.
Yeah, I have to admit that's a play I would not have made myself.
I think that's a common reaction here. So what is it that makes the sort of the split and slot right here? I mean, yes, there's some. I'd obviously like to make these points. We all know that those are the most important points that one can make. But it still strikes me you're stepping into 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. Your opponent has a better board, and you're not usually making these kinds of plays with a better board. And yet it's clearly best by a good margin.
All right. Well, first of all, what I love about backgammon is there's always a better play, and we're always looking for a better play. And most of us have not that much problem finding a good play when there's a few good plays. We all have horrible time finding a good play when there's nothing but bad plays. And this play, the right play, is a bad play. It's not a fun play to make. It doesn't put you in a great position. It's a bad roll. and but there's still, you want to maximize your equity no matter how good or bad the play is and still find the best play. Well, one thing that's thematic about early game positions, we start out the game with too many checkers on our 6-point and our midpoint. We start out with 5 and 5, and Extreme Gammon has been teaching us in recent years. This is the program we're using here, Extreme Gammon. Jack mentioned that he used GNU as well, which is also a very fine program, but Extreme Gammon has proven to be the best by far.
Yes.
But Extreme Gammon has taught us pretty much that you want to unstack. You want to get these checkers into play as early as possible. And that's one reason why the slotting player coming off of this point is attractive. The other reason is that you are duplicating his 4. He needs a 4 to hit you here, and he needs a 4 to hit you here. And this is a very key point for him. If he rolls a 4, like a 4-1, 4-2, 4-3, he's got a question. He's got a problem of what to do. If he hits you here, he probably doesn't make this point. If he makes this point, you have a good chance to come in and make your 5-point, which is critical. So that duplication and unstacking are the themes. But I have to tell you, like I admitted earlier, I would not have made the right play here, and I think very few people would. I think. Go ahead.
I had another thought. He's also, I think, very likely, on these, I don't know how big a factor this is. I'm just sort of thinking aloud right now. He's likely to, especially if he makes, if you roll something, I think he'll make the 5-point. And if I fan or roll badly, he's likely to just have a very inefficient double if he's not too good already, which sort of minimizes some of the chances I'm taking, on, say, a point fan sequence.
Well, you're thinking real far ahead, which is great. You need to do that. If he does point on you and you fan, he's going to double you out, and it's not close and it's not that efficient.
I think he's too good.
Yeah, he may even be too good. But the other approach to these kinds of positions, this is one that is preached a lot by Mochi and by my mentor Perry Gardner and others, is think about your game plan. Your game plan here is to end up either with an anchor, a high anchor, or end up making a good point and priming him. You're certainly not playing a racing game, and you're not trying to this safe play, which puts you here, maybe puts you in position. Certainly, it minimizes all contact and makes it easy for him to either make his bar 5, 4-point, and you put no pressure on him whatsoever. He's got his whole role to play without any threats from you to do anything in return. So you want to have a contact game here, even though he has a better point right now, because you either need to make a priming game or a hitting game or an anchor game, and this leads to a game plan that works. Let's leave this position for the experts.
One more quick thought.
Sure.
I just realized how few of my numbers play well here. I certainly was aware of the stats on the 8 and 6 points, but my 5s don't play well. A lot of my 4s aren't to write home about, especially if he makes a point.
Mm-hmm.
So that might also be a big. I'll vary a couple of things and analyze it myself. And
sure, well, he's almost surely going to make, your opponent's almost surely going to make his bar point or his 5-point on the next roll. And that means that either a 6 or a 4 is not going to be very good for you. You won't be able to play it very comfortably anywhere unless you roll perfect combinations. So again, that's looking at what we call MCV, most common variation, looking at the next rolls of what you have to play. When you make the correct play, certainly you're going to get hit somewhere, although you could get very, very lucky and he could roll a lousy roll like a 6-5 or 6-3 and only be able to hit one checker or hit loose, in which case you've got a lot of really good options. So you can't just look at the glass as half empty. The glass might be half full here. If blue rolls something bad, there's a lot of good things you can accomplish. You'll make one of those 5 points or hit him. So again, this is a very tough play, and it's very nice of you to be so honest about pointing out a play that you didn't get right, didn't understand completely, and I think this is shows a degree of modesty, which I like in you. You're not full of yourself after winning 3 tournaments.
I'm starting to. I was like in San Jose. I was really mad when I lost my 4th match after having a big lead, and I'm just worried that it's starting to get to me a little, all this winning. But hopefully, That's the great thing about backgammon is if you get too full of yourself, it won't last too long because you'll make some horrible play or lose a bunch of matches, and they'll say to me, Jack, chill out. Yeah, you've been winning a bunch, but you're not God's gift to the backgammon world. Stop
this game will humble you very quickly, and I've seen it many times. I've seen the best player in the world, Mochi Falafel or whatever, travel all the way around the world to a major tournament and get knocked out in the first round by a horrible player who just got lucky. So that happens in this game. And the interesting thing is that there are two attitudes to take, and there's only one that's right. One attitude is I'm so mad that there's all this luck in this game and that somebody inferior can beat me. And the other attitude is if there wasn't luck in this game, they wouldn't be playing me. So I wouldn't have all these people to play. It would be like chess. You'd only get a game if somebody has a high rating. So that's what makes the tournaments, and that's also what makes the game fun. Okay, let's go on to, I did a variation on number 3. Let me just show you a variation because I think variations teach a lot. What I did here was let's take it off the final.
Wait, this is what's different? You made changed the 8 point.
Pardon me?
Oh yeah, I see. You changed.
What's different is he doesn't have 3 builders here. Yeah. Without the 3 builders here, it becomes even easier to make the play. And I think I would have made the right play here. I think I would have seen it. The difference was this checker being here, it just looked too rich for me to go here. So I just wanted to point out that one of the ways I'm going to study this, I'm not done studying this position, is I'm going to do several more variations. If I have fewer checkers here, if you have more points made, that's the way that will hopefully make us understand this position better. I just wanted to point out that variations is a very important way to study, to learn when you wouldn't make this play, when you would make another play. Okay, let's go on to number 4. Number 4, again, this looks like you are the one that is making an initial a redouble. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay, this is against Ed O'Loughlin again, and you're winning 3-0. You are red, and you were holding a 2 cube, and you decided to redouble. So that part of the question has been answered. Jack redoubled here, whether it's right or wrong. The next question is, was he right to redouble, and it should blue take or pass? Again, pause the video if you want to give it some study, and then we'll ask Jack what happened, and then we'll look at what's right. What happened, Jack?
Well, I had thought for several minutes before giving this clue because I had no idea what the hell was going on here. And again, right, this in some ways a little bit resembles one of the earlier positions, very superficially, in that I've got this one checker caught back against a broken prime. I have a chance to step up and get out of there eventually. But I've also got, these hitting chances. And one thing I looked at here was just that I've got, aside from 6, pretty much all my numbers do something, right? 2 step up in the back and get ready to escape. 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s are involved in hitting something. 1s don't do a hell of a lot, but, the 1 will come with some other number that will do something. And I've just slowly learned to trust myself in these kinds of positions, and here I should not have. But, I just don't know what's going on, but I feel like there's enough to double. I have serious threats. I have some sort of big positional weakness I need to deal with, but it seems that the threats vastly outweigh them. Give the opponent a decision. Throw the cube out there. In DC, in my final against Victor, I gave him a tough 4 cube, and there were 3 giants there. One of them thought it was a pass. One of them thought it was no double, and the other thought it was double take. And
I must tell you, when I first looked at this, I thought it was a double, and I certainly would double a player like Ed O'Loughlin without any hesitation because I want to gamble a little bit against one of the best players in the world. In fact, I think Ed O'Loughlin is the best player in the world that's not on the Giants list.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he missed the Giants list, which the giant of backgammon voting is one of the ways we as players vote for who we think are best. And the top of the list is usually very good. It's pretty accurate. After that, it falls off and it gets to be a popularity contest and so on. But Ed O'Loughlin belongs there.
Absolutely.
He's just a great player. So I would whip this cube very quickly and let him sweat. So again, Ed took the cube.
Yeah, Ed thought for a couple of minutes, and I don't know what his thought process was. I don't know if he was thinking about dropping, or if he was just, this is an important cube. I got plenty of time on my clock. Let's just do due diligence and make extra sure. So Ed takes, and then I rolled a 5-3, which I just very badly misplayed. With that 5-3, I should have hit 2. I should have hit on the 8-point and the 3-point. Instead, I somehow overthought things and picked up. I hit on the 8 and then lifted to the 5. I was thinking that he can roll something with a 4 in it and crack, and I didn't really want to get hit in the outfield with his various hitters. But that was just a terrible play. It turns out even when he rolled a 4, I'm better off having left that checker there.
Okay, I have to tell you, this is one of the most unusual interviews I think I've ever had. Here's a guy that's won 3 tournaments, and I gave him a big build-up, and all he does is show me his mistakes and tell me where he screws up and does it wrong. And that's one of the reasons I like you so much, and I think you're great for the game.
They're interesting positions.
Yeah, they're interesting, and it shows you're approaching this game from an intellectual standpoint and not ego, and I think that's one of the reasons that you're doing so well. So on that subject,
I knew you'd say that.
on that subject, how have you studied? How have you gotten so good? Have you been reading books? Is it strictly working with GNU?
I'm an XG guy now. I mean, I think once you reach a certain level, there's no excuse to, and that certain level being strong intermediate. There's no, it's $60, and if you're a USBGF membership, you get a discount, or if you're various other ways to get discounts for that.
Let me mention something there. Extreme Gammon is $60. They have an XG mobile that works, that is not quite as good, not as thorough, but it works on iPads and on your mobile phone. And Jack mentioned the USBGF. There's a 20% discount if you join the US Backgammon Federation. And if you're not really active in backgammon, that's a great way to get active and join that association. And you'll be tied into more of what's going on. There's free lessons. I have about 200 videos that have been posted there that are teaching videos that will help you learn the game. And there's the schedules, and you'll even if you don't play regularly, it'll be interesting to follow people like Jack and how they're doing. So if you're not from the United States, there are federations in virtually every country now. Join your local federation. It's a great way to support the game, be involved, not very expensive. And again, like Jack said, there's lots and lots of discounts available, not just on XG, but on other products and things as well.
It's a great organization. They're doing so much for the game, and it's really worthwhile. And so just to answer your question, I've been playing. I'm not terribly systematic at times in my study. I'll often just be playing a match online and then review it afterwards. I haven't. I have a few books. I've looked at them significantly, and some great books out there. I have Trice's Boot Camp is great. I've been going through Mary Hickey and Marty Storer's What's Your Game Plan, which is just a fabulous book, wonderfully written, and just recently got Kit Woolsey's New Ideas, and I'm starting to make my way through that slowly. But most of what I do is just playing matches, looking over them, trying to improve that way. I want to start being more systematic about, accumulating some reference positions, or, looking at certain facets of the game more closely, or, studying some more formulas and other things. But
all right, well, let me ask you a couple. I want to wrap this up pretty quick because I don't want to make these too long. But let me ask you a couple of the tougher questions. Have your grades suffered?
No.
No?
I'm not doing coursework right now. I'm done with that part of the PhD. So my dissertation suffered maybe, but not too much.
Okay. In Mochi's presentation in Monte Carlo, he said that teaching backgammon to kids could be dangerous. They could get addicted to the game just like he did. Mochi dropped out of one of the best colleges in the world to play backgammon. It certainly paid off for him, and it may well pay off for you. But you're not. You're smart. You're continuing with your education, and you're going to get your degree and go on and become a professor somewhere good, I'm sure, and continue to play backgammon. One more, you mentioned about the federations being great and doing a lot of promotion. Any other ideas or suggestions you have for how we can grow the game and get more people playing?
Well, I think, so on the subject of kids, right, again, coming from the chess world, right, where they're doing a ton of scholastic chess and then nothing to retain them. At least that's what I was my experience, that kids would play until they went off to college and then they'd stop unless they were grandmasters, and sometimes they'd stop even then. It's not, if I had a young kid, backgammon might not be the first game I would be interested in. I mean, you can certainly be a clean living backgammon player, but, backgammon tournaments, for the most part, aren't necessarily always the perfect environment. There's lots of, gambling and whatnot, and not that one has to do that. I think that's the great thing about that. One of the great things about backgammon is that one doesn't have to. But, there's no reason a game like chess or, other kinds of games, they're great for kids too. But I think the way this game's going to grow, just people doing the hard work of setting up a club, publicizing and encouraging new players to come of all ages, including younger players, but it's really hard work. I know a guy, John Burnett, out on Long Island that was trying to get a club started here, and he'd have a meeting every couple of weeks, and he'd have it publicized on meetup.com, and he'd get a couple of people, and they wouldn't come back, and he'd get another couple of people, wouldn't come back. But he kept at it, and he really kept at it, and it took him many months of hard work and persistence. But he's got a nice club going around here on Long Island. And,
I agree with you totally. And the best examples I can give you, Flint, Michigan is not a place where you'd expect to see full of backgammon players, but Carol Cole consistently kept promoting her club and running it well year after year. And she's got a great active group there. Bill Davis in Chicago, you would expect to have lots of people in Chicago, but he still gets 30 to 40 people every Tuesday night, has 2 divisions, and has run it and given prizes and kept giving points as rewards. He's kept the entry fee low and promoted it well. It takes an individual like that exactly, and that will grow the game, and the club players will end up becoming tournament players because they'll become addicted to the game and get involved in it. Very good.
The same way, by the way.
I also do believe that I'm not saying backgammon's better than chess in any way, but for kids, backgammon will teach kids a lot more about how to deal with good and bad luck and how to do math. Chess certainly has its advantages in logic and deductive and inductive reasoning and so on as well. They're both great games. But if I had a kid that was struggling with math, I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and the other day I started teaching her to play backgammon, and all we did was racing games and bearing off, and she was learning to count the pips on the dice and figure out the numbers and learn how to play doubles, and her math skills were increasing greatly just from playing backgammon. By the time we were done an hour later, and we played for a whole hour, she was adding up numbers very, very quickly and seeing exactly where the checkers went very well. In 1 hour of backgammon, her math skills increased incredibly. So I really think it's great from that standpoint. Jack, thank you for these positions. Thank you. I wish you continued good luck. I hope you continue to do well, whether you do or not. I know you've already had an incredibly successful year, and we're all very happy for you because you're such a nice guy. You're good for the game, and I'll be seeing you soon. Thanks for the interview.
Thank you.